Our next case study will examine how Sprint and Slate developed a first-of-its-kind customized web app and deciphered the mobile metrics to ensure future campaign success. Here to discuss the campaign is Craig Weinberg, Director of Mobile at Mindshare.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, well, I'm loud anyway, so it shouldn't really matter. We're here to talk about Sprint, Slate, and OnSwipe. Before we start, though, I do want to apologize. I might be a little foggy. I just got back from my bachelor party in New Orleans late last night. So I do have to say, we went to Emeril Lagasse's restaurant on Saturday night, and I had no fear, and I walked right up to Fergie, Josh Duhamel, and Rosario Dawson and got a picture with them. So that's my claim to fame for the weekend, of what I can actually share legally. How many people have an iPad? How many people are using that iPad right now and sort of half listening to me? Right, okay. So I work at Mindshare, and I work on Sprint mobile marketing. As a mobile carrier, Sprint has a lot to do with mobile marketing. We've done a lot, we've tested a lot, and we've developed a great deal of insights. Then the tablet came along, and the question with the tablet, the answer to the tablet question is more questions. What do we do with this thing? How do we measure it? How do we provide right content experiences that are made for touchscreen devices, for iOS, for Android, for Windows, for BlackBerry, all of the major operating systems? We came up with an interesting solution after talking to our friends at Slate. We brought in our friends at OnSwipe, whose mission is to make the web tabletized. And we decided to run a test. And that test was actually, where's this thing? So the test itself was to tabletize Slate.com. Slate.com, owned by the Washington Post, they have a iPad app, but they don't have a web app. And OnSwipe was launching, and we decided to give this a spin. One of the data points that we rested on as we tried to pitch this to the clients is that, what do you think is the highest area of engagement in the tablet, on the iPad or other tablets? I mean, what are most of you who are half ignoring me right now doing? You're probably on the web. And it's okay that you're ignoring me, because we're on the couches and we're ignoring the TV, and we're ignoring all these other areas, and we're multitasking, but we're browsing. Apps are great. We love apps. We're going to continue investing in apps, and apps are awesome, but at the same time, we know that browsing is the #1 area of engagement for consumers. So we decided to capitalize on the web traffic that publishers like Slate already have, and we wanted to provide a tablet-optimized experience that's rich and developed for the touchscreen device. And what we really discovered was that, this is my big pithy statement for the day, the touchscreen revolution is here. We're in the midst of a fundamental behavioral shift in how we consume digital content. Engagement's moving from clicks to taps, from opening to swiping. As the touchscreen experience evolves, there will be a quiet but seismic change in how consumers expect to engage with their content in new and meaningful ways. As a mobile carrier, Sprint needs to remain one step ahead of the curve by offering consumers rich touchscreen experiences in the way that they were meant to be enjoyed, by taking full advantage of the tablet's inherent magic. So I think that most of us in this room really understand what that means, and I think it's safe to say that most tablet experiences through the browser, through Safari, which is a very sophisticated browser, are not optimized. They're either the mobile site, which doesn't really look great, or the desktop site, which is a little too cluttered. So this is what Slate looked like on the iPad before we optimized it using OnSwipe's plugin. It's a great site. We love Slate, but it's a little complicated. It's a little hard to navigate, and you're essentially getting the desktop experience. This is what it looked like after we optimized it for iPads. So we launched with iOS first. We're moving to Android hopefully by the end of July, and hopefully we'll be moving to iPhone under iOS sometime in August. In terms of metrics and analytics, we actually sort of thought we had stumbled on a glitch when this launched, because traffic just died. And we weren't really sure that we had set things up in Omniture to track correctly. And we talked to Slate, we talked to OnSwipe, and everything was actually okay. We actually weren't sure that we were reading it correctly, because this has never been done before. So a lot of the measurement analytics that I'll give you today We've never done it before, and we don't have an apples-to-apples comparison as to whether we should be comparing some of these metrics to desktop or some of these metrics to mobile. But because I work on mobile, I'm going to compare most things to mobile because that's just going to make me sound smarter. Then what we have is the Sprint ad. And if you can see, I'll run over here. If you can see in the Sprint ad, we essentially have rich media in a magazine print ad. So we took Sprint's print ad, and we added rich elements to it. We added location, which was never been able to before been done through HTML5. We added sharing, which is pretty standard in mobile rich media and even desktop for Facebook, Twitter, and email. And then we took our YouTube videos without having to recreate or do any other assets. We just took our YouTube videos and embedded them within the ad. And as you'll see later, we have some interesting stats around the engagement around that. And then we, of course, were trying to drive traffic to Sprint's tablet-optimized site. This was just a regular static ad that we decided to repurpose. Eventually, though, in the next iteration, we're going to be moving forward with more rich media type aspects, touching, swiping, looking, feeling. I mean, there's so much sight, sound, and motion, like Michael was saying, that's possible within rich media. And we're going to be headed there eventually, but this is just the first iteration. And I'll also sort of preface or hedge all of our risk here by saying that we've been live for maybe 3 weeks now. So this is all very, very new and very hot off the presses. Engagement. And I thought an infographic would make everything look cooler. So what we have is average unique visitors to Slate increasing over time. We launched on June 21st, I believe. And this is the first full week and a half, 2 weeks. And what we're actually experiencing are, on average, visitors to the web app of touch.slate.com are engaging with 23% more page views than desktop users to slate.com. And this is big, because Slate has an iPhone optimized site, and they have an iPad app, and obviously their desktop site. So they have a robust property that we're adding to reach new consumers, hopefully to get them to change to Sprint. Daily uniques increased 39% last weekend, so the weekend after July 4th. Last weekend. 39% more unique visitors weekend 4 versus weekend 1. And that was also after some of the earned media had paid out during the first week. So what we're actually seeing is more weekend traffic, and it's organic weekend traffic. And the biggest stat of all, which I think is great, and I think you guys will love as well, is that weekend uniques increased 13% to Slate's touch.slate.com, which, as we all know, weekend traffic, especially to news publications, tends to die or at least drop a lot over the weekends. And what we're seeing is, and what we think this proves, is that this is much more of a lean back experience where, again, people here who are on the computers, who are on the iPads listening to me, but also typing away or viewing content through Safari, you're doing a lot of things. You're not necessarily multitasking, you're sort of media meshing, you're doing concurrent media usage. And we think that this actually supports that, because increasing traffic on 13% means that we can actually reach more people in an area where otherwise they'd be out with the kids, they'd be out actually doing other things other than just sort of sitting back and consuming content on the iPad. And this is what I think we're most proud of. We're seeing 2 times the normal video rates versus mobile video. And again, this is an area where we don't have that much to compare to, so the best comparison we have for the moment is mobile rich media, mobile video. Is the iPad a computer? Is it a desktop? Is it a mobile device? We aren't really making a ruling on that. We're just trying to find the best numbers to compare against. We're also seeing, really importantly, a 9% higher engagement rate based on click-through versus mobile rich media, which is something we're really proud of. And I think that so far we've deemed this a success. But again, we're only about 3 or 4 weeks in, so we don't really know, because a lot of the metrics we're still catching up, and we're still just starting, which I couldn't even bring today. We're doing A/B testing between the different creative units that we have, so that we can make the case that we need more to put into this program. And the idea is that it's more of a magazine kind of experience where you go to Slate and you have one visitor visiting, and each URL and each unique piece of content isn't tied to one unique URL. So we're seeing actually about 20–25% more time spent on the site by people going there. And that's why I think that we really are in the midst of behavioral shift, because as we start to see more web app sites and more sites optimized for tablets, it's not something that consumers are necessarily used to. It's something that people who actively use iPads and touchscreen devices and use apps on those devices are used to. But I don't think it's something that we are going to see just sort of like people going, oh, well, wow, I didn't know that the site suddenly looks like this. And I think there's a learning experience that has to happen. And I think that that learning experience is happening quickly. And I think through this test, we're learning that people are coming back to content and they want to be engaged. And also they want to see Sprint ads, which is good for us. So that's the bulk of the story. We have 5 minutes left and I can take questions, although I can't really see anybody. The plugin went to Slate to optimize the site, and we're tracking the ads through our normal pixel and tracking methods.
Yeah, Craig, just want to say one thing from Slate. I think one thing at Slate that we like is that if you kind of look at the web in general, it's all based on links and URLs and referral traffic, and this browser optimizes that, whereas the apps specifically really don't. So it's an opportunity for us, and we're going to continue to kind of look at it more so.
Yeah, and I think one thing that Michael said, which caught my attention, is that once you hit that iTunes wall, Android you can track through clicks, as long as my memory is correct. But iTunes, within that closed garden, that walled garden, you can't track clicks. So if this were a regular app download campaign in some way, shape, or form, we would lose all of those tracks. So we'd be able to tell you how much traffic we drove to the iTunes store, and then maybe make some roundabout conclusions about how many downloads we actually drove. But iTunes blocks everything at that point. So we're able to refer a lot of traffic there and actually see where that traffic is going, how people are interacting with it. And people can always opt out of this experience and go to the desktop site if they're not comfortable, if they want to just experience what they're used to. Yeah.
Let me ask a follow-up question, which is, have you guys thought yet about how you do the trade-off between when do you build an app versus when you just build an optimized website?
I think that we're figuring that out now. I mean, like I said at the beginning, we love apps. We have nothing against apps whatsoever, and we also love the web and we love the mobile web. But in this particular case, we wanted to try something where we knew an audience of scale existed and we didn't have to build one. So we know that there's the top 25 of apps, and we know that there are apps trying to bubble up, and those apps tend to have audiences of scale, like the CNNs, the Facebooks, the New York Timeses. But this was something where we knew, in talking to Slate, that the traffic was already there. So it was about making an experience that was actually meant for the tablet versus an app, which is meant for the tablet as well, but getting people to download the app and then return to using the app is obviously a hard sell, or can be a hard sell.
So are you guys segmenting advertising dollars based on either the optimized site versus a regular mobile play versus everything else? So are people buying specifically for the optimized site?
People buying specifically for the optimized site. This is from the whole digital pie, I'll say. Yeah, this was a test that, we had other areas of partnership with Slate, and this was something that was sort of the prize piece of what we were doing with them. But overall, it was a holistic digital buy with Slate, if that makes sense.
Well, I think what I was trying to get at is when other advertisers, Sprint is one, right? So, but as the advertising opportunities open up, is it going to be marketed specifically for one type of mobile device or experience versus another type of mobile experience?
I see what you're saying. I think the answer is yes and no. I think that I would take one step back and call it a touchscreen experience. So if the web is open, which it is, we could do things and reach people through iOS, we could reach them through WebOS, we could reach them through BlackBerry, and we could reach them through Android. So if those screens are touchscreen or touchscreen, then we want experiences like that. Whether they're on through an app or whether they're through the web, that's what we're trying to figure out.
Right, but if the engagement rates are so much higher online, 9x is significant, then that would support additional.
Right, but there are also only 15 million iPads, 20 million iPads, which is no small number, but the mass of people using the iPads isn't exactly there yet. So to shift a lot of dollars into that, we need to, again, reach audiences of scale. So it's about this type of experience and other experiences. I wouldn't say one or the other.
Is there a way to add an account confirmation step to an app download or something that will basically tell you or track it back?
Track it to an app download?
If once you download an app, is there a way to add an account confirmation? Like you have to confirm your account or something, in the case of TD Ameritrade or whatever, to track it back to the ad that initiated the app download. Because you're saying once with iTunes you reach a blank wall.
Mm-hmm.
If post-app download you can add something, like confirm your account kind of step, would you be able to track it end to end?
I think so. That's not something that we're necessarily doing here, but I don't know if Michael's still around. I don't know how he's dealing with that question. We're not in the position necessarily of driving people to download apps because we are a carrier. This is more of a experiment in finding the right content to reach new consumers in areas that they're already engaging in. So we're not necessarily hitting that iTunes wall as much as I think maybe Michael is in trying to get downloads for the TD downloads. Is that fair, Michael? Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you.